All right, everybody, welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. And for the final time on WrestleMania weekend, can we still call it that? Monday, or I guess Tuesday in the AM here in the UK. We are live talking all about what has gone down most recently in the world of WWE. Of course, we are referring to the Raw after WrestleMania. We're going to be diving into everything that took place tonight and whether or not it lived up to those expectations that us wrestling fans have, of course, for the most exciting Raw of the year.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
Right, it is in the books. Raw after WrestleMania 2024 is over and done with. And it was all right. Like, it was a good show for a 3-hour wrestling show that takes place every week, right? It was a good show. There were good things that happened on it, but let's be honest, the Raw after WrestleMania hype is done. Like, this was a chance to bring it back, and maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe they don't. They refer to it, they brand it that way, Raw after Mania. Everybody knows where it is. But as we said earlier on, our good friend Andy Spores, friend of the channel, Wrestling Royalty himself, you know, he made the gamble. He's out there in Philly and decided, you know what, I can afford to kind of miss that show and go home early. And I think he made the right decision. While it would have been a nice night out in general, I think when you've done what you've done for the weekend, as far as being out there in Philly, for example, this year, I don't think you would have missed much by not going tonight. Now, again, that's not saying it weren't a good Raw. It was a good Raw. It wasn't a good Raw after Mania, but it was a good Raw. Let's get to some comments. Slice Sports says, hello, join us once again. So who won the main event? I left because I was... Let's have all the ads. I really enjoyed the show, actually. Yeah, it was a good show. So Jey Uso won the main event due to a distraction from CM Punk. The CM Punk Drew McIntyre feud continues, and Jey Uso is the main event for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, saying those things on their own, I'm like, I like those things. But again, Raw after Mania standards, I don't know. There was no surprises. I mean, I say no surprises, right? We got internal surprises, and this is what I was talking about earlier on. If they can't like sign the hottest free agent and it align with Mania weekend, and you also hold them back for Raw, I understand that's kind of a unique circumstance anyway. So what they've done in recent years is try and utilize NXT, and they did the same thing last year where they disguise Raw debuts and NXT call-ups. Well, you know, as NXT call-ups, but they're not. Because who did we get this year? We got Ilya Dragunov, who big fan of. Got an interview with him on this very channel. Had a great chat with him for Rebellious Noise. Check that out if you can. But he's the NXT champ. He wasn't being called up, was he? And what else do we have? Roxanne Perez just won the title. Good moment for her. Advertised on NXT. All good. Happy about that because you got Natalya calling her out in the back as well. But disguised as some sort of, you know, return debut call up. It was neither of those things. Similar situation. Jade Cargill. So happy to see her. Happy to see her on Raw. Happy to see her sign with WWE. It was a few months ago, though. She showed up on Raw tonight, had a 25-second match. Cool, good, funny. Jade beating Chelsea Green. I enjoyed it. Again, it was a good Raw. But these are the moments we're looking back on, comparing to, as we said on the build-up show earlier on, the Dudleys returning, Lesnar returning, Dolph cashing in, X-Pac joining DX. Do you know what I mean? There's a long history behind the Raw after WrestleMania. And I just feel like we've got to be honest with ourselves now and realize those days are gone for now, it seems. And I'm sad to say that. I thought we would get something big tonight. But look, I don't want to be too down on it. It was a good show overall, like I say, and we'll go through some of the things that happened tonight. But guys, thank you to everyone that's joining us live, wherever you are around the world. Here in the UK, it's 4:13 in the AM on a Tuesday morning. And it has been a real privilege to go live and chat with you guys. Tonight it's just me, Oos. Been solo on a build-up before it. We did a build-up show getting hyped up for Raw. Probably didn't help. Considering it wasn't much to be hyped for, it seems. Maybe we overhyped ourselves. Mojo Rawley getting hyped and staying hyped. But hey, it's been good chatting wrestling with you. But let's go, into what's happened on tonight's show anyway. Sludge says, congrats on the 600 followers on X. Thank you, buddy. And also, a lot of growth on our YouTube channel this weekend, and yeah, we really appreciate it. I know Sludge has been part of the team for a while, but anyone else that's just joined us, we appreciate it. Again, usually a few of us on these streams, but tonight, as I say, it is just me, Oos. Let's get to some of the kind of big moments from tonight. It all started, of course, with a fantastic opening segment that went weirdly long and had some awkward moments, but still, I think was enjoyable. Starts out, Triple H comes out. Thank you, Hunter. He says, no, I'll come in to thank you. And he brings out Cody Rhodes and they play him this beautiful promo package. Fantastic. They make a little joke out of how successful they've been. They've sold so many seats that to have a small Tron, and therefore fans might not be able to see things. Cody couldn't see the video, so that to bring him and wheel out a little TV like it was secondary school and we were about to watch Shrek. So instead they play him this promo video. He's very emotional. They cut to him as in a split screen, and it was great. It was really cool. And then we got The Rock. Before that, actually, we did get a fantastic line from Cody, the whole undesirable to undeniable, now undisputed. Very, very well executed. Cool promo there. And then The Rock comes out still carrying these people's championship, which I think is a bit odd. It's one thing for Mania, it's another thing for now, but it sounds like he's going away, so maybe he'll kind of awkwardly not keep coming out of it every week now anyway. But Rock made some funny jokes. He said, you've set another record here in Philadelphia, largest collection of trading park trash and all that, classic here, Rock. Then he asked for Cody's belt. He asked to hold the title, and I thought, oh, this is cool. It's going to be a great moment. Now he's just going to go, looks good to me. That's it. But he kind of did that, and then it just, as the fans were chanting, "This is awkward," rather than "This is awesome." It just really did drag out, and I think, as Sludge says here, the first hour there was no ads, so they kind of took the mick. Really, I think they took too much time with this, because there were some really good notes that they hit in this promo, but it definitely did drag. I think if you take the highlights from it, there are some really good moments, like I say. Even like the awkwardness, which they were saying is, you could take it as a negative, but I took it as a positive, like this kind of tension almost of like, yeah, let me hold your belt. Like, I ain't going to do anything. And then Cody was a bit odd in asking to hold his, but it is what it is. They did the little swap, and Rock, as expected, is like, pretty much going, I could get used to this. And I like the way they built into it. I've held a lot of championships, but I've never had that one as in that version of it and whatever else, and the connection between the two, the Universal as well. So there is that. And that was kind of cool. And then they did the bit where The Rock says, look, Rock is coming back for you, like whether you have the title or not, I'm coming for you. And I like that as well, because we don't know where we're going with that. And of course, he drops the line, one of the most kind of, I guess, poignant moments of the whole evening really was, Rock saying, our story has just begun. And I thought, yeah, I'm all for it. Like, this is what we want. We were talking on over the weekend that, if Rock turns, that'd be a great moment at Mania. But like, this heel run's been great. And he come out and did the whole, the Rock's going away, but when I come back, and it was like, oh, all right then. But then that plays into his heel persona, the Hollywood persona as well. So it worked for that. And then, talking of awkwardness, guys, it ends with this really strange section where, like, The Rock says, I've got a gift for you. He puts something in Cody's hand, and he's like, you ain't got to look at it. You know what that is. All right. What? What was it? And yeah, I'm sure that's the point. But still, very weird. Very weird. I mean, it reminded me of the Undertaker Bray Wyatt moment at Raw 30, where it created a lot of speculation, and now seeing as Bray's sadly passed away, it seems like we're not going to kind of get answers to that, and it was a private moment. But like, I remember that set off this chain of events of people just going, what? Like, what was that? Did it mean something? And whatever. And maybe we'll get a solution this time around for this one, but it kind of reminded me of that in a strange way. Yeah, and when he gave it to him, he said, don't ever break my heart again. What are you talking about? Like, it was so confused. Like, I get being cryptic, but like, after a 45-minute like segment, and then no ads, and then going straight into someone else, it was just like, what are you talking about? Like, again, there were good parts, but I was very confused. Anyway, next up, the first kind of surprise we get. The first surprise for me was the fact that Nakamura was doing something like around WrestleMania, because I was shocked the other day when I realized Nakamura had nothing going on, and I was like, okay, are we treating this as a return? So Nakamura comes out, Ilya Dragunov comes out, and beats him. Essentially, has a great match with him, and again, great to see Ilya Dragunov come up onto Raw. And I know they then also announced the draft, and they said he's eligible for it. And they had Ava Rain in the background later in behind the scenes later on, with the Raw and SmackDown GMs as well. But like, and she was kind of like, we're part of this as well. It's like, really? Are people going to get drafted to NXT? Like, well, we'll see how it goes. I think it's on the 26th and the 29th of May, Raw and SmackDown. So keep an eye on that, on those dates. Keep an eye on this channel. We'll try and cover it as well. But yeah, it was just a bit strange, again, to kind of, in my eyes, like, it's just a default kind of like, oh, we gave you something. And like I say earlier on, maybe that's what you do if you can't sign the hottest free agent or bring back a legend or wherever it may be. But still, I guess that's what it is. They dampen expectations. We get like, oh, Ilya's here and Roxanne's here. If it was Carmelo, we'd be going, oh, he's staying here, right? And maybe they don't want that just yet. And that's who I thought would be getting called up from NXT. So maybe it kind of, gives you something for the night, but doesn't over kind of promise something, because maybe they're not ready to have any of the NXT stars come up. Otherwise, again, Carmelo might have been the guy. Then we get the Judgment Day as expected. We were really kind of debating, weren't we, on the build-up show that we did earlier on, who was going to open up the show. We did talk about whether it be Cody and some sort of celebration with his title, or whether it would be a Judgment Day celebration. And it ended up being Cody, of course, and a link with The Rock and Triple H as well. But then eventually we did get that Judgment Day celebration, and it was really good. Obviously, the best part of it was when they hold up the titles, and out of nowhere, R-Truth comes in with his tag title in the middle of the pose, which was very funny. Then he says, you know what, like, let's have a match. It looked like we were going into what was predicted on a build-up show, that the tag titles going to line. And I do think that's probably coming, but I'm actually surprised it didn't happen tonight. It felt like it was going that way, and that they were going to go back to the Judgment Day, but through, different members, maybe Finn and JD or Dom and JD. It felt like Finn and JD tonight, from Finn kind of being part of the back and forth on a mic, but it didn't happen. They set up a 6-man tag, and R-Truth, says, you can't see who it is, and they played into the whole little Jimmy thing, and the Miz played up to it, and it was really weird because then we started having breaks, or we'd had one already, I think. So when they come back, and it was like, should that music not have just hit straight away? But I guess Cena was there to just hit like 2 moves, and it is what it is. But eventually Cena would come out and he would help the Awesome Truth, and it was a good moment, as Michael Cole called it. I think it was him at least, the 15 knuckle shuffle, and then the triple AA. Enjoyable again, like good things happened on this Raw, but it's just that surprises thing, and I guess we've been spoiled in the past. But like when Cena comes back and does this sort of thing, you're like, that was fun. That was a fun moment. But like, we can't pretend he weren't on WrestleMania last night. Like, that we know there's a chance he's going to be on this show. The Rock, it's always special when The Rock shows up, but like The Rock's been around quite a bit lately. So as fun as these segments are, again, we're still waiting for, at this point, I felt, a surprise at some point. You know what? The best thing about tonight was something that barely happened on the show. Like, it happened in the arena, and then for a split second happened on the show. And you might know what I'm talking about here, but it looks like we're getting Uncle Howdy back, right? It looks like there's going to be some sort of continuation of the Bray Wyatt story. Now, we talked about this a few nights ago on our WrestleMania build-up shows with Dom. I know who's a big fan of Bray's work, and like all of us really miss Bray dearly, and the creativity he brought to WWE. But it looks like we are going to get something going forward when it comes to Bo Dallas, or Taylor Rotunda / Uncle Howdy. Now, it looks like we are going to get some sort of continuation of it, and I'm all for it. I think getting the most out of what was, I guess, originally going to happen, and kind of do whatever they can, so around that storyline. Now, of course, it's never going to be the same, but it would be nice to do something with it. Now, they played a song in the arena before the show went live. You might have seen this. A good friend of the channel, actually, Alison McGeorge of the Metro. You can find his work on X at Alistair McGraps these days. He put up a video of what, again, he described at the time as possibly a Bo Dallas / Uncle Howdy tease, being reminiscent of the White Rabbit and Bray Wyatt stuff leading into his return at Extreme Rules. And go and check it out. I've retweeted it on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling X social media account as well. So go check that out. But basically, they played this song by an artist called Marty Amado, and it's a song called Nightbird, and it sounds very like, I guess, like 1950s style. Cool song from what I hear. I'll be honest, disclaimer, is the old Steve Austin podcast post. Don't really know much about it. I tried to do a bit of digging, and we posted the song on our Twitter account, or X account, once again, at RM Pro Wrestling. So if you do want to look into it, and maybe try and decipher codes in the lyrics and stuff like that, it looks like a song that was put up like 4 years ago. There's 2 versions of it on YouTube. One was 4 years, one was 3 years ago, and that's it. She seems to be, it was like a compilation that seems to be themed around women, and then the second compilation themed around music that was, like, I guess, similar to the 1950s style as well. So really interesting choice. Before, of course, it was the Jefferson Airplane song, a very well-known song. This time round, it seems like they've gone for a similar style. It's kind of eerie and spooky when you see that clip that Alice has put up, but at the same time, I guess an unknown artist, right? So that's kind of interesting as well. Why have they chosen that? I actually found the artist's Instagram, and I just want to see what that looks like in a few days' time, because I think wrestling fans are going to take hold of it. And she seems like someone who hasn't really done much on social media, and suddenly might be thrown into this spotlight if they continue to use this song. So it does feel like it's for something. And again, I mentioned it happened mainly off of the show, But during the show, we also got Bronson Reed backstage, as we did with the other competitors in the main event, kind of hyping up that main event. And there was a little glitch in the camera. And at the time, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I don't watch Raw that much these days. I ain't got 3 hours on a Monday night to give him. But then I started thinking, hold on a minute, that looks strange. Has there been something else going on? Have I missed something? And then, what do you know? All this stuff again happened before Raw even went on the air. And it seems like this is going to be linked. So I'm really excited. That to me, that's the best thing to come out of this show. And just like it was with the White Rabbit stuff, it took a while and it was this kind of wild goose chase. But eventually it led to something incredible. And I'm really hoping that's going to be the case. And a continuation of Bray's vision, I'm all for it. Again, I said last night on the night 2 build, I hadn't even got round to watching the Bray Wyatt documentary just yet. But I know when I do, it's going to be full of emotion. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm sure that will help me kind of get back into this spirit of chasing the White Rabbit, if you will. So, yeah, really cool. Again, probably my favorite thing to happen tonight. And again, wasn't really much to do with the show, but which is a nice feeling as well, because it feels like, Bray's influence lives on. What was it like when Bray was teasing the return? It was just like this. We were coming out of Raw, just looking up these clues and stuff like that. And I love that stuff. I take even back to Jericho's return with the Savers Y2J, which became very obvious very quickly. I'm a sucker for that sort of stuff. 221-11, Sting's possible return to wrestling and into WWE, which was never the case. It was always the Undertaker, but it sent us on a bit of a fun journey for a little while as well. Let's move back into Raw after Mania action, though. We did get Roxanne Perez defeating Indy Hartwell in a pretty quick match. Candice LeRae didn't look too pleased about that. And once again, an NXT champion coming in for what seemed to be a kind of, I don't know, here you go, fans, something different. And here you go, Roxanne, an opportunity, which, again, you can't begrudge, but it is what it is. Then we get some backstage stuff again. Natalya confronting Roxanne, but also Liv Morgan beating down Rhea. The best thing about this is the other thing that's really come out of Raw, is that incredible transition. And I am a bit worried that they might overdo this stuff. They did it for the Sami Zayn entrance. They've done it for some cool things on Raw lately as well. Sami Zayn's entrance at WrestleMania, of course. And for this, Dominic, if you're unaware, hits the camera and then they go to a live shot into the audience and stuff like that. I know everybody was, dancing around and celebrating that Kevin Dunn's kind of million camera angle fest had kind of changed and kind of died, if you will. But I do think there is a risk of falling into other cliches and things not being as special. So as much as I'm really enjoying this stuff, like I do hope it kind of it becomes a bit more kind of sparingly used, basically, because I don't want to overdo it. Guys, let me know what you think about Raw as well. I really want to dig deep into your comments and your thoughts on what happened tonight as well. Are you feeling like I am, like it was just a decent Raw, or are you a lot more hyped than me, or are you a lot more annoyed than me? It'd be interesting to know what you think. So whether it's live or on demand, would love to hear your comments. Then we get Imperium without Gunther, of course, confronting Sammy. Gable, as you would expect, comes out to help. In between this and the match they actually have, though, they have a promo video for Sheamus where my note that I've written down is wasted. Like, maybe he's not ready to come back today, but like, again, it was something that was brought up in our build-up show, and I thought, oh, okay, that would be a cool return. Like, it's still not to the stature, and it's not always going to be Brock Lesnar finally coming back to the WWE. It's not always going to be a Money in the Bank cash-in, but at the same time, like, you've got these people in your roster and you're advertising a return. Could he not have just come back as a surprise tonight? Would that not have been good? Maybe with his old theme song, that would have been pretty cool. But no, they decided not to. So I guess we'll see where that goes. Then we do get back to the match itself. Sami Zayn and Gable versus Live at Kudver and Live at Kudver. What am I saying? Elizabeth Kaiser And Vinci, but it's 4:30 in the morning over here, guys, and I've been doing quite a lot of streams this weekend. Imperium basically have a really good match with Sami Zayn and Gable, who work really well together. You get the double German suplex. You get at the end of it the haluva kick, but before he does it, he tags in Gable and he lets Gable hit the Chaos Fury and get the win. Now, a few things coming out of this. I do think Ludwig Kaiser could actually get a decent singles match going into Bash in Berlin. We're all talking about Gunther's role there, but I think Ludwig might get a good position on that card. It would be nice to see as well. And beyond that, of course, they touch on it a little while later, but they have the situation backstage where Sammy says, look, I gave you a favor back, and Gable's like, what? And then Sammy's like, look, I'm joking, it's fine. IC title match for you basically next week in my hometown, so it'd be interesting to see where that goes. If he does win it, it will feel weird. It feels like surely there is going to be some sort of heel turn or something here, because to not give it to Gable, now, look, I've done this to death. I mentioned it tonight on the build-up show. I mentioned it last night on both night 2 shows, the build-up and the instant reaction. Of course, I went in deep on my thoughts about this on the instant reaction show on night 1. So if you haven't seen it already, guys, check out our reviews of both WrestleMania night 1 and 2. And of course, as said earlier on, I was on the Give Me a Whole Year podcast today as well, and I also chatted to those boys about it. I do just think it's been a bit of a waste. A great moment on paper, but and presented as a great moment, but for me, as much as I enjoyed the match and stuff like that, it's not the person I wanted in that position, and it's not the position I wanted for Sammy. I wanted Sammy to win the world title, a world title at some point, and I wanted Gunther to lose to someone that had never held the IC, and Gable felt like the perfect candidate. But there we go. We'll see where we go with that one. Another thing that happens, as we said earlier on, I mean, I've mentioned it probably more time than I actually had airtime for it now, but Jade Cargill did beat Chelsea Green. Again, good to see her on board, and I think if you showed me this last year and didn't tell me the context, like CM Punk was there, Jay Cargill and all that, and like I'd be like, oh my gosh, what did they all return? Did they like a Cargill debut? It'd be like, nah, they've been around for like a while, so like it's great people and great moments, but like no real surprises in that sense. But anyway, we finally get to the main event, and Drew McIntyre comes out with purpose. This, and again, good main event. I enjoyed it. He says about basically being happy and whatever else with his title for, I think it was 5 minutes and 46 seconds. He says to the audience that's 5 minutes longer than most of you've lasted in bed, and all that kind of traditional heel stuff. Interestingly though, he said the Money in the Bank weakens the world title, which was an interesting thing to say. We did mention earlier on in the build-up show that there was a bit of a conversation last night, actually, on the on the build-up for the second night of WrestleMania, and we were talking about maybe Money in the Bank has run its course and needs to kind of go away for a little bit. But I would argue, now that we've seen this incredible cash-in yesterday, that's exactly why that's probably not a good idea. So Money in the Bank still very much worthy for me when it's used right, but interesting to see someone in storyline say the Money in the Bank is detrimental or something like that. I don't think anyone's really ever said that before. Like, I don't really, like, you've probably had heels go, oh, like that wasn't fair, and how could you just do that, and with an opportunity, did you really earn it, blah blah blah. But I don't think anyone's really said like, oh, it weakens the title itself. So that was quite interesting. He said he's been cashed in on twice now and he's just not having it anymore. He called as well another kind of term that you don't really see on TV. He said Damian Priest is a transitional champion. So that was quite interesting to see. And I think they are going to be treading a fine line now if he actually becomes a transitional champion. If you're unaware, basically, that's how people describe someone that has a title just for a little bit to get from someone to someone. And they were kind of in the middle to kind of facilitate that, because maybe the two people on either end couldn't really face each other. Usually to get when a babyface needs to win the title, but the babyface over here already has it, and then going together doesn't make sense. You maybe put a heel in the middle to kind of switch it across. But anyway, a bit of an insider term, if you will. So strange to see that on Raw. But then also quite funny, and I like this when you get like the Brits and the Irish doing the same sort of thing. Like they use words that aren't considered as bad, I guess, in America. Like, you know, they say ass, we say arse, right? If you say arse in the UK on TV, it ain't getting on TV. But, you know, and I know this is a term used over there, don't get me wrong, but it more so has strength, I feel, coming from a Scotsman when Drew McIntyre just straight up called CM Punk a prick, and they didn't edit it. You know, there's been so much editing recently, which is, at first it was like, oh my gosh, what did they say? Oh, I can tell, I can lip read, it was funny. But like, I don't know about you guys, but on Mania, I thought it was way too much. Like there was so much silence, and it kept happening tonight as well. They were making certain chants silent, and it was just getting a little uncomfortable. I feel like they need to scale back on it. If they're not going to openly allow some of this stuff to be heard, then just they need to cut down on how much they say it, because there's just so much of like silence when they're trying to awkwardly edit it. But anyway, that didn't need to be edited out apparently, and I just thought it was quite funny. Going to the match itself, the main event, I was actually surprised that this is the main event, because this is the last moment we're going to see. And is again, I was like, who's coming back? Who's ruining this for someone? And kind of like, well, no one. Like CM Punk gets involved at the very end. We're jumping ahead on the match, but that's the only kind of oh wow that came from the match. Other than well, it sounds silly. The match itself was really good. Like there were some wow moments in the match. Michinoku Driver from Drew McIntyre did some incredible work on the Trio Woe, getting up and quickly snapping. I can't remember who it was, off of the top rope now as well, and then getting damaged himself there. Reed just destroying Ricochet for a while. I was really impressed with how Bronson Reed looked in this. I know he's done quite well recently as well, of course, with the Andre Battle Royal win as well. Then a 450 for the announce table from Ricochet. I mean, what more do you want? It was a good four-way match, and then ended in a surprise where someone gets screwed and Drew McIntyre looks like he's going off in the CM Punk direction. So in that sense, enjoyable, but I guess going back to what this is all supposed to be, surely, is this kind of new beginning in WWE for the next year and a reset. And while like it cleared some things up, like we've got certain feuds going on now, we've got a draft coming up very soon as well. I think the lack of surprises will be what people remember this show for, which is quite sad, because again, if this was just a regular Raw, like we've had lately, we've had some really good Raws, I think people would be looking at this a lot more fondly. But it's awkward. It has such a reputation to keep up these days, which I know is kind of impossible some years. Like I say, if you haven't signed the hottest free agent, there's not much you can do. But saying that, there are a few things you can do, and I guess they tried them tonight by using some NXT talent and having some big names on the card, or show up at least, you know, Jade Cargill and CM Punk. But at the same time, I can't help but come away from this show feel like it was lacking, and feel like next year, look, again, I don't watch Raw on the weekly 3 hours. I watch highlights, and you know, my as much as I enjoyed parts of it, like and I think last year I was saying the exact same thing. Like, it reminded me why I don't watch Raw, because it's 3 hours and there's so much filler. There's so much like time where I'm like, where's my phone? You know, like it's too much. It was a good 3 hour Raw, we'll put it that way. As good as that can be. But again, I think this time last year I was saying the same thing on this stream again, just saying, look, it doesn't make me want to watch Raw next week. Like, I can't be bothered with 3 hours. If that's the best we've got to offer, I'll stick to the highlights on YouTube. I got to be honest. Extended highlights maybe, but still, a bit disappointed. I didn't want to be leaving this stream in this kind of mood, and I feel bad because there were some great performances tonight. And again, it was a good Raw, and maybe it's just us as wrestling fans setting expectation too high. But when they feed into it, you know, these days, by branding it Raw after Mania and all that kind of stuff as well, like they know where that hype come from. So to not kind of live up to that, in some ways, I guess it is their fault. again, which is a shame. I don't want to come away with this as such a downer, like, because overall it's been a really good WrestleMania weekend. We have had ups and we've definitely had downs. I won't lie. There have been times this weekend where I've questioned booking and stuff like that, but ultimately it's been a really good time. Not only that, it's been a really good time with you lot checking out these streams, giving me comments, giving me company tonight where it has just been me, and also over the past few days where it has been the rest of the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling crew, and of course a lot of our great friends from the wrestling media that have hopped in and out as well. We really do appreciate those coming along for the ride. We've hit a landmark in subscribers over the past few days. We hit 619 the other day. We were happy about that, and we've kind of zoomed straight past that now. So really pleased about that as well. If you haven't already, check out some of the extra podcasts we've got on this channel. Myself and Rob were in the studio talking about the history of WrestleMania logos. We've also got content in the archives that go all the way back to our time, for example, at Clash at the Castle. We have great conversations with the likes of Rhea Ripley, her Judgment Day member friend in Finn Balor, and the current WWE World Heavyweight Champion in Damian Priest as well. We've also had great conversations in the past with the likes of LA Knight, Santos Escobar, and Zelina Vega, just to name a few as well. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Would love to have you a part of this Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling family. Let us know in the comments what you think of tonight's show. Do you think I'm being harsh? Do you think I'm being kind of, I guess, holding back? I'm holding back. Maybe you're a lot more kind of frustrated than I am. I guess generally speaking, like I say, all in all, it was a good show. But I do think the Raw after Mania thing is definitely not what it once was. And will it ever get back there? I don't know. But again, ultimately an enjoyable show. I won't be staying up watching Raw anytime soon. But that doesn't mean things aren't going well for WWE. It doesn't mean things aren't going in the right direction. It just means there's not enough to make me commit to 3 hours on a Monday night, going into early hours of Tuesday morning here in the UK. So, but yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. And for those that joined us earlier on the build-up show as well and have decided to come back, we really do appreciate you. And again, everybody that's been with us throughout this WrestleMania weekend and all of our content leading up to it. Like I say, lots in the archive, but lots to come as well. Some fantastic PLEs on our way, it seems, with, the PLE in France, one in Germany, one in Canada. Of course, we've got the States, and of course, we've also got the UK with Clash at the Castle 2 making its way to Glasgow. So we'll be covering those in depth. Some of those, hopefully, we're going to have on-site correspondence for as well, just like we had our good friend Andy Spores covering WrestleMania from Philadelphia over the weekend as well. But I've been Scott. This has been a Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.